I want every one of you to remember these three words. Nigerians, we are no more. Southeasterners and Southerners, we cannot become. And Biafrans, we must be.
A servant of the wonderful people of Biafra. We are live and we are direct this very morning, afternoon, or night, depending on where you are. And we start this very day by making it abundantly clear that the greatest enemy of a black man is the way that we reason. If not that the way we reason is very, very abhorrent, there is no need or reason why we should be suffering and complaining every blessed day without the courage to do something about it.
Welcome, fellow Biafrans, lovers of freedom across the world. I welcome you once again to this amazing program. Wherever you are watching us from, we appreciate you. Please kindly like and share this program to all platforms. Share to family and friends. Share to everyone that is concerned across the world, so that the world will get the true picture of what is going on in the contraption called Nigeria against the indigenous people, more especially the United States of Biafran people. In this platform, we bring information to expose the atrocities of Nigerian government and the success made by the Biafran government so far. In this episode, I am going to share with you some mind-blowing video. All you have to do is to pay attention from beginning to end. When we say that Nigerian government is a terrorist government, it is not a blackmail or propaganda. We are not just accusing them. They are complicit directly and indirectly. Follow us on this very program. You are going to see for yourself information coming from their own conventional media to confirm every single accusation we have made. Most time people think that we are speaking out of anger, out of hatred, but not. Watch and see for yourself.
We now bring you this exclusive interview with Nigeria's former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, where he sat down with Arise primetime anchor Charles Anyagolu to discuss a number of topics, including Nigeria's evolution as a nation. Let's tune in.
Hello and welcome to this Arise News special interview. I'm Charles Anyagolu, and this year, General Yakubu Gowon, the youngest political and military leader to rule Nigeria, turns 91. He was just 31 when that awesome responsibility fell on his shoulders, and he presided over the affairs of this country from 1966 to 1975. He came to office at a turbulent time in this country's history after two military coups in 1966. The first one that led to the killing of Nigeria's Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and the second, 6 months later, that saw the assassination of the head of state, General Aguiyi Ironsi. General Gowon subsequently ruled this country for 9 years before another coup removed him from office. It was during his reign that Nigeria's bloody civil war took place, lasting for 30 months. As he accepted the surrender of Biafran forces, he declared that there'd be no victor and no vanquished, a declaration that was seen around the world as a magnanimous gesture of post-war reconciliation. 55 years later, as he celebrates the milestone of exceeding the age of 90, how does he think Nigeria has evolved in all that time? And I'm delighted to say that Nigeria's former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, joins me now. General Gowon, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
It is so nice to see you. So nice to see you.
To say that we're honored is an understatement. You became head of state, as I mentioned in the intro there, at the very tender age of 31. I mean, that must have been an extraordinary challenge for you. And I'm wondering how prepared you were for what clearly must have been a very difficult role.
Yes, indeed, it was third one going third two. And that I've had a good upbringing from home, from school, from my various military training, and of course, brought up in a very strict religious condition.
So you fell back.
So I fell back on all that. Yes, I was not prepared, simply for to rule Nigeria, but I was as a loyal soldier, to be loyal to my country, to be loyal to my head of state, and to my country. So I had that one, that upbringing, and so I was the military training, especially at the staff college level, teaching you how to deal with any issue, any problem, whether you know it or not. How to appreciate, we used to call it, appreciate the situation, and then evolve into many courses open to you to deal with that particular problem, after which you can then choose one of those that you think should be able to at the end result that you wanted. So that upbringing and training certainly helped me in a lot of ways. But certainly I was not trained to rule.
What you just
but
saw
at least given
is the update of the case on the
upbringing to
18th.
be able to
Remember, Mazin Nandekano
deal
has
with the
his
situation
18th
the
and
best way
19th.
you can.
So the
But
very
of
first
course,
update you just
you know
listened
that
to
you cannot do it
is
alone.
a press
You have
release that
other
was
people
done on
around
the
you.
18th after the
And
case was heard on that day.
If you can,
And you can see from
relate
every
with them as well,
indication, every
so
single
that
thing
you
that they
can all
presented
together,
doesn't hold
you
water.
Paris,
It is all
So it was a collective
accusations
responsibility,
without
although you
any
were
evidence.
obviously the prime
Evidence provided
lead.
cannot be
Absolutely.
substantiated.
Right, and of course,
And I bet
you came to
every single
office
of that evidence have been quiet.
at that young
Now,
age.
I
Let's
am
not
going
forget
to
that.
bring to you
On the
the
heels
press
of the
release that was
January
given
1966
after the 19th
and the July
June
1966
hearing.
coup and counter coup. And
So
that was a
I am going to
hugely
bring
destabilizing
the update.
period for Nigeria.
So you are going to
Was
listen
that
now
what
and
motivated you
hear
at the
what the
time
legate
to
himself
create 12
after the
new
hearing
states
on
to
the 19th.
replace the
first
four
one you had was
regions?
18th and 19th,
no.
which was supposed to be the final day.
Well,
I want you
creation
to
of
hear
12 states.
from the
four-
legal counsel
four
of Mazin
regions. Yes,
Nandeka
there are
what
four
they had to say,
regions.
what transpired, and
But
what
it
to
is the
expect.
demand
Let us listen to them and
for
hear what they have to say.
the various communities that made me either to think of, why don't you, in order to satisfy their wishes, why don't you, if I mean, also create inner states to satisfy them? And this is from the demand of the people. That came as a result of what happened January 66.
You talked about, General Cohen, about the fact that a lot of the people who were killed, those military officers, were from the north.
That's right.
Did that make General Agui-Ironsi's position from the very beginning almost untenable as someone from the south?
I did not know what was happening in Nigeria before that, because I was right in the UK on the coast. But I think some of the stories that you hear, there was trouble, that is part of the reaction. But probably I'll come to that with riot, yes.
I mean, because the reason I asked that is that General Adi Iransi was assassinated literally 6 months after that first, because, and obviously there would have been brewing resentment towards him, because in a sense he personified to the people from the other side what they felt had been inflicted upon them.
Yes, I think honestly that could be the part of the reason, but the feeling I know later, because I mean one of the feeling was that that from the other side was being was still considering finishing the unfinished symphony.
So you were not aware of the fact that there was going to be a coup, a counter coup in July 1966?
No, what? Not at all. Until that very night.
Right.
That very night, early morning, when I was woken up to say something had happened in Abeokuta, and before you know it, I think it just spread for and I was on telephone trying to find out that I know that Generossi was in Ibadan for meeting with all the traditional rulers, and just to warn him that God is this person and should do it. He should be very careful. That of course
it was too late.
Too late. By the time I got in the government house telephone, unfortunately, already something had happened. But the instruction that I gave the senior officer in charge at that time was to make sure that if he was kept safe, taken safe somewhere until God is able to sort out the insurrection that had already started and what had to prepare.
Right. So he was then assassinated.
Unfortunately.
How did you become aware that you've been chosen to become the next head of state, to replace him, essentially?
Well, it is from after the effort of the chief of staff, Spring headquarters, are going to be, I think, attempt to try to to bring law and order in the battalion. And of course, unfortunately, the troops that he sent, certainly decimated. And then, of course, it has to come to me. Us then, like the acting chief of the chief of staff, to go to Incharge to try and see if I can sort out the problem. And of course, I think at that time, that is where a lot of big crisis for a number of days. There was no government, and for the civil servants, you are worried because of system of government that was done at that time. So there was all sort of efforts, either from them, either for her to go and put things right in occasion. And of course, one day, please, Father, they normally ask their former African general, but only at that time, I was German party chief of. So that probably helped they listen to me. And if I said, we just got to make sure that things, I put right. And we did. So with civil servants, certainly they wanted to make contact with the most senior officer, military officer, to give them, the instruction. Since, the old system is still like military, that was in control. but I didn't tell you the story how I was from the contact between the civil servants, and also some of the foreign were British and American ambassadors or high commissioned had to come and see for us, come and see to wish to find out who who is the leader of the insurrection at the time, in order to make sure that at least things is there. And so they came, and they saw me, and of course there was discussion there from to what is happening and burying the head of state. I didn't want it. I want to remain the Trump or the secretary to remain either as minister or get into GRC or minister of in order to ensure that we restore the discipline and loyalty of the body of the army in support of tradition,
But they offered it to you.
But in the end, of course, has offered it to the junior officers if they want to, and any of them wanted to, the gender, our the less was to look after the population to restore loyalty, discipline, and loyalty for the. But however, in the end, in fact, most of the young officers, they say that I'm the only one that they would accept. That is irrespective from any from any of the group in the army. So, although I was not in the most senior, there were senior people now, or DDP, chocolate, and others, but unfortunately, they said they did not want anybody but for me to give them the leadership. And so that was how the leadership came to me.
And of course, subsequent to that January 66 coup, the July 66 coup, and you subsequently becoming head of state, there were attacks on people from the southeast in the northern region, and even in parts of the western region as well. The people in the southeast call it a pauldron. What was your assessment of what happened, and what did you try to do to stop those killings, people from the southeast?
My goodness, it was something that we did not expect. That was more of reaction of what either happened in an area. Now, if you remember, before Iran's did you remember something that the regions are going to be disbanded and all going to be provincial when you became a minister, that is going to become provinces. And of course there was a lot of reaction, fear and reaction from all the regions, well, of course, except this Midwest probably because it is already quite normal that they have their own vision, but there was reaction in the north and the west, against that unitary system of government, which it is very people again because they were afraid of being overwhelmed by the people from the east. There was that fear, because that was why the leadership that in the north and political leadership, the whiter, and the military leadership also were wiped out at the same time. And the action, really, that is that really created, some of the thing that happened. It is not the military that that did it. The military one that Trump did was the revenge, whereby all the officers that took part in the coup were, of course, taken in, and but I do not know what they did to them, but at least those of them that were able to be taken from the various prisons, in the country. Yes, I think they were unfortunately penitentiary. But some of them that lived, for example, in Zimbabwe, later on, tried to fight. And unfortunately, he was killed in operation. Terrible towards the Indian people. Super Banjo, was taken, I think, somewhere in this and in others. So really, a lot of ways thing that happened. It was more or less the reaction of what happened in January, and some of the.
And you couldn't stop.
No, of course, I had to stop it, my goodness. I remember during that time, during that crisis, yes, what one has to do in whatever way one could to get the leadership authorities in those areas to stop Trump, got boss right nonsense. And I spoke to some of the chiefs, some of the political leaders that were there, people that at least people that can do something to douse the situation. And with Bauchi, I remember certainly that the Emir of Bauchi that I had to speak to has my name. So he was my namesake. His name was, I could be with certain Bauchi. Less of it, I spoke to them, and to do whatever we can, and also the soldiers, to make sure that the people were protected. And it is not from the act of the military, but the reaction of the population, because of what's happened to their leadership, when you come to think of it.
But then, of course, the people in the southeast felt that that was the clearest indication to them that they were no longer wanted in the union. That was Nigeria. They then broke away. And of course, after that came the horror of the Civil War, because you went out to bring them back, to forcibly bring them back. That Civil War happened under your watch. As you look back at that period with the benefit of hindsight, could that conflict that claimed millions of lives have been prevented?
Yes, I think I have said that if the East does not break up from Nigeria, yes, and that was what I kept on saying. Why people say that they want to say, no, I have a responsibility, to keep Nigeria, Nigeria. And as far as I'm concerned, that is my duty, and I won't. But if the situation gets to this stage, when I have to choose between allowing the breakup, or happy to stop it physically. I know where my responsibility is because of my loyalty, love and loyalty to the country.
Indeed. And many, but there were attempts. Sorry, go ahead.
So let me just say, and the question of the millions of people that we say between, right from the beginning, if I may, made sure that it is not a war against the Igbos as such, but it is in order to stop the breaking up of Nigeria. Right? Yes, and so what I did, I get a code of conduct. How if I do the operations was to go, etc. And you are not fighting the people. Make sure that we protect them, all people, protect the women, and children, and you will only take up arms against those who take up arms against you. And honestly, and with the instruction that anything that was done against the population that is not correct would be dealt with, and it is that was done, and it is not millions of people. Now, we tried to send leaflets people to be sure that honestly it is not fight against them, but we had to stop the government, the union, what we have, and even they should not for me to talk that, of course, when the names that I was called at that time, also before the vandal, the whatever it is, there was no name that I was.
It was called propaganda of war.
Okay, accepted. We used to say, please don't move, don't run away. But of course, they used to tell their people they should run away from those vandals, from those horrible leadership that is going to treat them. And that is how a lot of people lost their lives. And then when we tried to say the question of feeding, feeding the people, for example, we used to allow aid to come, but we said let it come to Nigeria and let it be inspected by international people, so that there is no question of weapon the try smart might do. And but the other side refuses. So what can you do? We also arrange for the food to be able to be taken in by road and etc. That of course the other side it will jubile. You say no, because if other work, Nigeria is going to poison the food. Whether we are afraid of weapons being in there, but of Nigeria will be poisoning the food, and so they will say no to but and in the end, really a lot of people, it is not from any people killed by gunshots.
Right.
But all the palm trees that I saw when I went to that part of the country, and I saw all those black spots on trees, palm trees, etc. And I was wondering what sort of disease is this on those trees. And someone said, no, those are bullet marks. So most of the bullets were more on the on those trees,
not on people.
Not on people.
But I mean, that was obviously when the war had started and advanced. Prior to the start of the war, Many analysts have suggested that if the Aburi Accord had been implemented, the tragedy of the Civil War might have been averted, and they blame you for reneging on that Aburi Accord. Is that how you see it? Did your government renege on the Aburi Accord?
Well, I think that is the interpretation that we not know whether that accord was the actual final result, which was not to be done until after we got home.
But you agreed to the accord when you were in Gaf.
No, this is the accord. It is not a question of agreement in accord. This, it is when we come back home, and I made this, I made a statement. When you come back home, and I make a statement that you about Aburi.
Right. Because that's why it was called an accord. An accord means that you had agreed.
No, accord. No, but then it has to be done in Nigeria before Friday.
So you needed to come home and discuss it.
Unfortunately, when the first people didn't want to believe it, I was having a serious attack of either fever or whatever it is, and I could not make any decision.
At
home.
Right.
When we arrived in home, and Tojuku was one who then, when he came, he went and made made the statement. He made the statement about the Aburi Code, and the governor of the Midwest did Eje. Then rang me at that very early hours of the game. To tell me, he said, "Had you heard?" So I said, "Had not." And you know what the OG God said? So I said, "No." I haven't had anything that that happened, but that is the reason why I could not make this statement, which would have then clearly say exactly what we agree on. And he told me that we said you are going to move a car, that the military is going to be etc. are going to be control now from each from each opposition, for example. And he was what I said today. Is that actually, honestly, is that what me I did too? But he said, "Yo." So I said, "Well, honestly, I do not know what that is." So that was different the time, and later on, had to ask the other governors what they think, and they were able to say, well, that is not what it is. So we had to organize a meeting of all the governors, and he was invited to attend so that we can deal with the Akure Accord. And we met at NIFO in Benin. And he did not turn up, and of course, all the secretaries to the government, all the were there, all the governors were there. He was invited, but of course, he said because of security reason, he cannot come. So he didn't come or send anybody. And, we discussed that discussion. And, for example, the permanent, the secretary to the government, the West, did ask, came and appealed to me, as a Christian, please if we can make sure that that accord, what we agreed is in the true spirit of Aburi. And I told him, as a Christian, I can assure you that that is the way, it is going to be. And we had that meeting. In the end, we invited him to come. He did not come.
So,
and when we ended the meeting, of course, the spirit of Aburi was totally, as it was sort of, I do not know what accord he was reading, because he came to the meeting with prepared papers, of things that he wanted. And of course, we discussed them one by one, agree on some, disagree on some. Like, for example, to give you one of the major issues, although we say that the military would be zoned, but the control, and then he wanted, those zones to be commanded by the governor. Say, you have a military zone in the north, will be commanded by the governor of the ministry. In the east, will be commanded by him, and military in the west, by this thing. And of course, we did not agree with that one. And certainly, it was not one of those agreed. But none of us went there, with any senior official, secretary to the government, or senior, etc. We did not. We just went there, as far as we are concerned, to be able to meet as officers now and then, to agree to be able to get back home and resolve our problem at home. That was, my understanding. But that is not his understanding. And so when we went to NIFO and discussed this, the spirit of Aburi was certainly included. The only thing that I added was that no region, will can secede,
right?
From the
so that there was a clear, from your point of view,
Absolutely.
misunderstanding.
Absolutely.
The war, of course, ended in 1970, and you came up with that no victor, no vanquished declaration, which was seen by many people, both at home and abroad, as a extraordinary, magnanimous gesture of post-war reconciliation, unprecedented in many ways. Would you say that 55 years later, Nigeria has healed from the wounds inflicted by that terrible war, and that no victor, no vanquished declaration of yours was fully adopted in this country?
Well, at least we've survived how many years now? We've survived how many years?
It'll be 65 this year.
Well, we've survived 65 years. Since the war, let us say.
Yes, 55 years since the war.
Since the war. At least, if there is anything, my whole idea is that when all this thing is done, at least we can be able to come back, and rebuild the country and make the great efforts that have been done. Yes, we've gone through, through dangerous time, whereby as though we're going to break up, etc. But we've now come back, and we are now improving, at every stage.
But you do know that survival is not the same as thriving.
Oh, thriving! Isn't Nigeria thriving today? Come along, let us have it. Have we not gone beyond? What we were 55 years ago? And we still trying to get the perfection. Certainly, I did not mean that things will be absolutely perfect the way they want, or anybody anybody wants. But at least we will survive as a country, improving at every stage.
Right.
To where we are. And if we look at things the way things are going today, most of the people that were affected by the war today, and great progress and happening in the East, in all the states in the East. I certainly did not try to stop development and improving the situation as the time goes.
After watching this video, now you understand very well what we mean when we say that Nigeria is irredeemable. When we call for the disintegration of Nigeria, you will now understand. There is no plan and there is no way Nigeria will survive in the dish that it is today. And Nigeria continues to deepen into more failure, into more disaster, into more insecurity, and into more economic instability. The earlier we begin to think wisely and focus on the solution, which is disintegration, the better for all of us. It is not a selfish request. It is not just about the Biafran. It is about humanity. If you want to save humanity, you must support the disintegration of the contraption called Nigeria. Divide the country along people that have same value system. People that have same value system. The Oduduwa people, the Middle Belt, the Northerners, and the Southeastern and the Biafrans. That is the only solution. No matter how you try to run away from it, it will continue to haunt you. Thank you, and let's keep watching. Go to comment section and share your comments.